Hi, this is Mike Kelly. In a previous life, I was privileged to serve as president of IMCEA. However, today I'm here with you as Director of Morale, Welfare, Recreation, and Resale Policy in the Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Military Community and Family Policy. I wish the circumstances would have allowed us to get together in person, but I commend IMCEA for putting together this virtual experience. I'll spend the next few minutes giving you a view of the world from where we sit. We formed this directorate early this year by combining two legacy operations, MWR policy and resale activities and NAF policy. A couple of months ago, we organized into 3 teams as shown on this slide. The top part of the slide describes what we do. As you can see, we cover a lot of turf in this directorate. The bottom part of the slide talks about who does it. I think I've got the best team in the department, and I'm going to take a few minutes to brag about them. Carol Potter has been around forever, and she represents our continuity. Chris Wright and Justin Hall have been on staff for about 3 years each, but have been promoted into their current team lead positions within the last couple of months. All the folks in blue, bold italics are recent hires, and frankly have not even started here yet. Kristen McManus has extensive marketing experience with the Army Family and MWR program. Jane Westbay comes from the Navy with experience in the Single Sailor Program, the Management Intern Program, and field support for their 35mm motion picture program. Susan Hansen currently serves as the Senior Air Force Functional Authority for all aspects of MWR and services facility projects in Europe, and also has extensive background in lodging. Sean Carpenter joins us from the Defense Logistics Agency, where he currently serves as the agency's Deputy Staff Director for Family and MWR, and previously served as their Chief Financial Officer. Brian Campbell just left for 2 weeks of pre-deployment training on his way to his second year-long deployment to Afghanistan, where he will serve as Director of Quality of Life for all U.S. forces deployed to that country. And finally, Ryan Atkins set the world's record in getting this year's non-appropriated fund facility program assembled, reviewed, coordinated throughout the department, and finally signed out to Congress. Well over half my staff is either brand new or newly promoted. I still have a vacant GS-14 position, and Carol Potter will probably retire sometime next year. So dust off your resume and keep watching USA Jobs. We spent a lot of time this year following up on the results of the Task Force on Common Services for Service Member and Family Support Programs. When you look across the Department of Defense, the services are putting over $4.6 billion a year into these quality of life programs. Over $800 million of that is consumed by overhead functions, much of which occur above base level. Now, as we deal with the budget cuts, we normally start chopping off program delivery at base level. Wouldn't it be great if we could keep the base level programs going and take the cuts out of the overhead instead? The task force looked for opportunities to do just that. It reviewed the overhead associated with 15 separate functions and held a week-long rapid improvement event for almost all of them. Each rapid improvement event discussed their issues and made their recommendations independently. However, a number of common themes emerged. Here are the ones that stood out the most. First of all, increased collaboration. Of all the reviewed programs, 8 of them had already established some kind of joint working group prior to the rapid improvement event. Each of the remaining programs recommended establishing a cross-service working group following their rapid improvement event. The do it now category covers the no-brainers, the kinds of things that just make good sense, don't require a lot of time or money to implement, frankly, the kinds of things we should probably have been doing all along. Examples include those cross-service collaboration forums I mentioned a few minutes ago, establishing standard contract clauses for our NAF procurement actions, and creating catalogs composed of best practices information from all the services. The 80% solution, the courses of action that they studied provide a variety of options for improvement, ranging from maintaining the status quo to implementing a fully integrated solution. For example, the NAF Accounting Rapid Improvement event developed 3 different courses of action. maintain the status quo, move to a common core financial system, and finally move to a consolidated service center. Full adoption of the ultimate solution is not necessary to achieve success. The first two courses of action could be implemented without inhibiting the future implementation of the third course of action. And even if the third one is never fully implemented, the steps taken to reach it are still beneficial both financially and strategically. By the same token, to achieve the benefits, we don't need all of the services to join in. Even getting two services to collaborate on the same system will generate savings and reduce needless duplication. And finally, in shared services, literature is full of examples of organizations that have improved their efficiency and effectiveness greatly by utilizing a shared service business model. This is particularly successful when business units have similar requirements across the enterprise. With 4 services performing similar functions, we can see its possible application to the way we do business in MWR. Of the 208 recommendations that came from the Rapid Improvement events, 55 of them, or 26%, identified opportunities to share services and solutions. Opportunities for collaboration within and between the military services are possible due to fairly similar programs, technology, stakeholders, and processes. These opportunities include shared contracts, for example, the Joint Services Prime Vendor Program and the NAF Purchase Card Program. Shared IT systems like the Hotel Information System such as Epitome, and shared training opportunities such as performing cross-training with other branches of the service. Here are some of the signs of progress that have been made so far in implementing some of the recommendations that came out of the task force recommendations. I'm not going to deal with each of these in detail, but I'll mention a couple of them that you may be able to relate to. We have a massive contract with RAND to study the possible business case for some of the more complex and costly options. They're working with the services right now to gather the data to determine whether the business case will support the kinds of investment that we would expect to have to make if we were going to go full bore in those directions. The initial programs that they're looking at are the NAF accounting function and the employee benefit programs. Working with the services, we've developed a NAF standard general ledger and chart of accounts. Completed that action back in April 30th, and we're currently working with the Undersecretary of Defense for Comptroller and the Defense Finance and Accounting Service on officially distributing the draft framework to facilitate the required IT system upgrades. We're moving now into phase 2, which will involve the implementation of the standard general ledger, which we expect to complete by 1 October 2016. As part of this process, we're going to update our financial management policies, revamp the financial reporting and the data management, and hope to get all of this completed so we can continue to use the data that we've accumulated over the course of the years. We do have a follow-on contract in place for professional analysis and implementation support. The NAF Accounting Working Group held its 5th meeting at the end of August. This has been a boon for us as we've brought together a body of subject matter experts from each of the services, our own office, the Undersecretary of Defense for Comptroller, and the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. We hope that this group will be a precursor to a more formal NAF Accounting Standards Board that we hope to help chart the future for the accounting policies that will be implemented across the Department of Defense. As part of this effort, the working group is identifying and addressing the variances in accounting practices to help achieve standardization and implement the standard general ledger. We have a number of actions working in the procurement arena, and the Air Force has the lead for many of them. They're working on a global marketplace, developing an online NAFWorks with access to all NAF procurement contracts in a single location. This is expected to improve cross-utilization of NAFI contracts, reducing the number of duplicate contract solicitations. The contract for this program has been led and development started back in June. As part of this process, they're developing an application called NAF Access, an online tool to facilitate the sale or transfer of excess NAF furniture and equipment through a contractor. We see this as a lower cost option to the local NAF sales. And finally, we're spinning off a number of projects that weren't directly mentioned in the task force or as rapid improvement events, but are related to other ideas that came up during that period of time. Carol Potter is working with our Strategy and Innovation Office on the Joint Service Leisure Travel website. We held a meeting with all the services back in June and identified 4 courses of action for a business case analysis. The status quo, a plus-up, a DoD-enhanced solution running on one of the existing platforms, or a partnership with one of the commercial providers. We're also working a number of other contracting-related actions, a central repository of NAP procurement guidance, laws, regulations, executive orders, and policies, and things like that. We're working a procurement optimization decision matrix. The Navy MWR program has the lead for that. These are only a few of the tangible results we're already seeing from the task force review. We're bringing in a contract to find out where we are on all the recommendations and hope to be able to report more progress for that in the future. Here are some of the other issues that have kept us busy in recent months. We don't have time to discuss each of them in detail, but let me mention some of the more important ones. We still see a tremendous amount of support for our military members and their families. The problem is that with all the budget pressures, delivering on that support is becoming harder and harder. That's true whether we're talking about our commanders in the field, the senior leadership in the department and the administration, or the congressional defense committees. There is a tremendous emphasis these days on health and wellness. The Healthy Base Initiative pilot program at 14 locations is a prime example. In addition, the Secretary of Defense called for a department-wide review of policies related to tobacco, everything from sales to the areas where it can be used and by whom. The review committee's report is due to the Secretary before the end of this year. We still see a steady pace of deployments in support of military missions overseas, and we continue to look for ways that we can support the folks who deploy and the people they leave behind. In the past couple of months, we've been able to push roughly $60 million out to the services to help fund program improvements like fitness-on-demand systems, adaptive sports equipment, single service member initiatives, and various other enhancements of library, outdoor recreation, and similar community programs. Consider this as a supplement to your own efforts to work the budget system. We'll continue to do what we can to help out, but this is no substitute for the work you need to do to convince your commanders of your program's needs and priorities. As the appropriated funds dry up, the non-appropriated funds are coming under increasing pressures. The exchanges are facing similar pressures due to budget shortfalls, the condition of the economy, and the competition from other retailers. As a result, we're watching the exchange dividend performance closely. The Military Compensation and Retirement Modernization Commission is scheduled to deliver its report to the President early next year. Now, I talked earlier about our own task force on common services, and there's been some confusion about how that effort relates to this congressionally directed commission. The easiest way for me to explain it is by saying that the commission is looking at what, while the task force is looking at how. The Commission is looking at what programs should be included in the lifelong compensation package in order to attract the right people into military service, retain them for the appropriate period of time, and then transition them back into the civilian community. The task force, on the other hand, didn't look at what programs should be offered to the military members and their families, but rather how those programs should be supported, with particular attention to the overhead functions performed above base level. Finally, the President issued an executive order earlier this year mandating that employees working under federal contracts be paid at least $10.10 per hour. That requirement will start being put into effect with new contracts issued next January. We have been working with the Labor Department and the contracting community on the specific guidance, which we expect them to issue shortly. This brief rundown just scratches the surface, but as you can see, we touch a wide variety of issues up here, and new ones come up every day. Well, this has been a very brief look at the highlights of some of the things we're working in morale, welfare, recreation, and resale policy. As I said at the start, I wish we could have spent some time together face-to-face, but it's great that IMCEA put this virtual forum together. If you have any questions, you can reach me at the email address shown on the slide. It used to be shorter and simpler, but I guess this is progress. Thanks again for your support, and keep taking care of our military members and their families.